No. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Decoded channel for another episode of DeFi Decoded number 14. And like the usual, the Hash, fantastic co-host and leader in the Solana DeFi. And we welcome Brandon from Marinade. How are you doing, man?
Thanks for having me. I'm coming to you from a rustic cabin. So
yeah,
we're talking DeFi from the far corners of the forest. Thanks for having me.
That's what we do, man. You are in holiday?
Quasi-holiday, kind of the work remotely type thing. So we'll take a holiday around July 4th, but we're this cabin's got acceptable Wi-Fi. It sounds like. It looks like nice. I'm coming through okay.
Definitely, yes, sir. Ash, what are you doing?
Great, man. Another week. It's just like Solana's, on the steady up and up recently, which is pretty good to see. And we saw obviously Bitcoin past 30K again. That's always promising to see.
Exactly. And you're gonna talk to us about that for the next 55 minutes. Let's go. Hey, man, take it away.
More specifically with Brandon and Marinade. That might tie into some other things with their Marinade token. But once again, I appreciate you coming out here, Brandon, having this. I see you're at your cabin. I'm probably having a great time with your family out there while working remotely. And so being able to hop on an hour with this is very appreciative.
We got three really different backgrounds. We've got a bedroom. We've got like DeGod City.
Yeah.
And then we've got exposed wood. I think this is Web3 ethos in a nutshell right here on the screen, where you can kind of do Web3 from anywhere in the world, from whatever environment. Sunglasses, no sunglasses.
Yes.
AirPods, big headphones.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's like, diversity to the fullest, right?
Big time. Yeah, that's why I'm here. It's a diverse place to be. It's an exciting place to be. A lot of energy. There's really energy even in a kind of perpetual bear. So it's kind of nice to see us sticking around, grinding through this market. We're still building like crazy. I know you guys are too. We're kind of working on all kinds of stuff to build, community building, developing, building products. Education's huge, and thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan of the Divine Dogs. Just all the DeFi education they're constantly doing. There's really no such thing as too much education, because there's so many different audiences, people coming and going. It's a global place. You can educate every language possible. You can try educating DeFi one way, try it a different way, see what sticks. And it's just changing so much too. I feel like every week there's new things happening, new drops happening across the ecosystem. I just saw something like 10 minutes before we got on about Cypher. They're launching a new liquidity pool, I believe tomorrow. So that Cypher's a DeFi protocol that's kind of on the come up on Solana. So that's something I just found out about. I mean, I can be in the scene, I can be working in this full time, and I'm still just learning about stuff every day. It's just a dynamic place to be. It's exciting.
Yeah, and it's not even a bull market, right?
It's better this way though. Everyone I speak to, this is my first cycle working in this space, and it's definitely a builder's time right now. We're really huddling up, figuring out how to make everything we've made better. What haven't we built yet? Marinade's we're really building like crazy right now, launching all kinds of stuff. So that's really the market for it. Just making sure we're ready when the next cycle hits. And I don't know if BlackRock is triggering this next cycle, or Fidelity, or who knows. It's all this stuff's kind of seems a little coordinated, honestly, between the SEC stuff and I'm not like I'm gonna speculate too hard, but it all, I don't know. It seems like there's a roadmap in place, and we're just pawns in it.
I mean, yeah, like it's just because they wanted to buy more Bitcoin, you know. That's what they did.
Yeah, it is. It's impressive to me that of everything that's been thrown at the space over the last year and a half, 2 years, I mean, $30,000 Bitcoin after all that, um, that's crazy. I mean, you think about what it was like during COVID, what, down like around 5 grand or something. Like, I mean, it's just insane to me that people really aren't going to give up their orange coin, under 20, 25, really at all costs. So there's something to that. And then, of course, I think just beyond Bitcoin, there's just a lot of L1s that are all offering really different value propositions right now. They all have different points of emphasis. We're obviously, closest to Solana, but all the L2s on Ethereum, Cosmos, I mean, everyone's really, working on stuff and kind of fighting over a user base at the moment that's pretty stagnant, but kind of lining up the chips for finding that next product market fit for the next run.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's gonna be a fun ride. We just need another bull market.
I've really enjoyed though the NFT communities. I got into crypto really just on this idea that creators could kind of choose their own adventure, control their destiny a little more by programming and royalties, or just having a lot less friction in terms of getting paid for your work. And that was kind of one reason I came over.
That's right.
I'm not an artist; I'm more of like a writer by trade. So I've always met kind of watching how big companies can kind of take advantage of creative people. And I think that's partially why a big reason why I'm here. And so it's been exciting to see all the NFT communities not only make cool art, but build all this interesting utility into their communities. And I feel like we're just scratching the surface there. So that's another thing I'm always eager to hear about is what are these communities building?
Man, we have a lot to talk about. That's gonna be a cool stream, man. Like it's exciting.
I mean, he hit on so many different things that I want to agree on. Like, for the first thing that kind of comes to mind immediately is when you said like nobody would expect 30,000 Bitcoin during all this stuff. We had the SEC knocking, and then all of a sudden now we have all these investment capitals like applying for all these ETFs and trying to invest in Bitcoin. After all this, it does seem like another thing where no one really knows what's going to be going on during this building stage and this growth stage of Web3 as an entirely, right? Everybody thinks they know what's coming, and then we have a Black Swan event, we have what's happening right now, we have all these different things that's occurring. And so just like you said, it's the best time to just kind of tune everything else out and tunnel vision on whatever vision you have, and just and be in that builder mindset. So it's definitely in a market in a phase right now where it's builder centric, and the people who focus on their vision now will definitely prosper towards the course when we come back to that. We'll run wherever it ends up and whenever it ends up being.
Yeah, I know that Marinade is a really Solana only protocol, and that's what I'm working on now. But I'm not a maxi like by any means. Most of my time is spent on Solana, but I very much see value in Bitcoin. I see value in the Ethereum ecosystem. What Render's doing. Some of these DAOs. I'm very much have an open mind to everything they're doing and how they're trying to find value in their tokens and create value for the communities. So I would say after like these last year and a half, 2 years, like I think our BS detector is like pretty good now. If you've gone through all this, like I think we've seen some of the hubris just totally explode, and I think we're all very aware of that now. And if people start getting too cocky, that's like a huge red flag. I don't think there's many cocky people right now in this area, but they're going to come back and they're going to have this bravado, and I think that's like a good way to kind of scare me off. And I appreciate the humble builders, the people who are building in the background, and really have their heads down, trying to figure out all the opportunity that exists.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say though. It's like, but we're still in Solana NFTs though. So those type of people, those type of things do still tend to kind of pop off here no matter what market. You know, we can still see it something like a couple weeks from now, or even some that's popped up a week ago, still just absolutely pop off for on Solana, because that's kind of just how it's been around. But obviously, that's all part of the maturing stage of that, and we've seen less of that. Absolutely, that's for sure. And kind of as we ramp down, we have more unique things coming out, like for example, like Vince and Decoders. Like, this is a completely unique thing going on, where it's a niche of Web3 in general, where video content and visual content is much more needed. And I've seen kind of a couple threads upon that now. But yeah, even in that education, like, that's big on us now. I've talked with Vince about this, talked with other people. Like, short form content is obviously dominating the attention market. Twitter is a big thing about it, but obviously we've seen TikTok just take over the world in a short amount of time. And so having that and be able to implement that into education in Web3, I think will be huge for the next cycle, because I wouldn't have gotten into NFT specifically if I didn't see a niche TikTok about it back in early 2021 about Solana, right? And that's kind of what started my journey into here. So,
can you imagine, man? That's crazy.
Yeah. And so what it snowballed into. So education is absolutely huge. And I think a part of that is showing how the more the ecosystem matures and the more we see what's needed around here, the more that I think education is going to be more accepted. Exactly like you said, I learned stuff absolutely new day from my researchers, like Khalif, who's in the chat right now. Like, he shows me and sends me stuff from the Solana DeFi ecosystem every single day that I haven't seen, whether because I'm doing something else or whatever. And so having people like that that show you these different things, and knowing that it's such a vibrant facet of Solana, even though it's not talked about whatsoever, like very much at all, is very promising to see. And that's why I really wanted to have you guys on here today and talk about Marinade, because you guys are the #1 DOB DeFi project on Solana. And so being able to talk with how you guys have grown that, and how you guys consistently have grown, and be able to stay very dominant through a multitude of different things obviously going on in the space as a whole is really huge.
Yeah, it's tough for me to like puff my chest about being like #1 TVL, just because we control such a tiny percentage of stake on Solana. So just to give a little bit of an overview, Marinade is liquid staking, but the vast majority of Solana tokens are natively staked, and they're locked up with validators. They're not liquid. And so about 70% of all Solana tokens are staked, and about 2% of that is liquid staked. And of that 2%, Marinade's got about 70% of that. I don't know if that's exactly correct, but around 70%. So when you think about exactly how, like, we're this giant TVL protocol on Solana, we're really just a drop in the bucket. And so that there's a ton of opportunity there. And especially when you think about kind of the state of DeFi liquidity on Solana, it's definitely kind of probably had the worst go of it, of anything going on Solana really since FTX, especially. So we're really trying to evangelize liquidity and getting people to understand the composability of DeFi on Solana, kind of starting with MSOL, which is our liquid staking token. I think Blockworks said it best. They said, MSOL is like the base layer of Solana DeFi. And what they mean by that is, you get your SOL tokens, you stake it for MSOL, and then you can supply that throughout DeFi into collateral, borrow against it at a pretty safe percentage, because MSOL is always going up in price versus SOL. So like your liquidation risk is pretty low. You really need to have like a catastrophic event for something to get liquidated there. So it's probably like one of the best ways to really, stake and earn your yield, but also be able to use it in DeFi through lending. Really a growing amount of use cases too, and we're always trying to get more use cases going on in NFTs, and maybe we can talk about what's available and what we want to see next a little later. But MSOL is really what we want. We want it to be like the jumping off point into Solana DeFi as best we can, because not only are you getting your yield, which is important, because I don't know if everyone knows this, but the Solana token, it does have an inflation schedule, and right now it's around 6% or so. So if you're not staking your SOL tokens, you're essentially getting diluted. It's like a tax.
Yep.
So it's behooves a long-term investor to at least keep up with that yield. That emission schedule is scheduled to decline over time, but you do want to, you know, in two ways. You want to stake it for the yield, like the staking rewards, so that you can keep up with the emission schedule. But then also you're helping the network be stronger. So if
Mm.
you're looking out for your investment, you want to have a decentralized, censorship resistant, performant network, and staking does that. Liquid staking does it even more because you're able to decentralize
Yeah,
the network,
average.
but also use it in DeFi and support DeFi protocols and liquidity.
And why do you think like people like still stake their liquidity like on the validators themselves and not Marinade?
So we've got, I saw yesterday we've got over 70,000 wallets now with MSOL, and that doesn't include central exchanges. So like, we're on Coinbase, we're on Kraken, and those wallets aren't counted. So there are a lot of people with MSOL. The issue is those people are typically more retail. They're not
Yeah.
these giant whales. So if you think about kind of the early origins of Solana, you had the early investors. They had their token sale like 3 years ago or so. A lot of them, what they did is they invested in this Solana token. They've got a lockup period, but they started their own validators or had friends start a validator for them. And so they put all their tokens into this validator and they're earning basically commission off their own Sol stake.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those people got in, I don't know what the exact price they paid for the Sol tokens at like the very beginning, but they don't want to move it for the taxable event and all that. And so they're being kind of slow to get into the DeFi ecosystem. And really what just needs to happen is that stuff needs to unlock. And it will, 2023, 24, 25, you'll see more token unlocks. That'll kind of get distributed into like a new generation of Sol holders, and hopefully we can see more of that. So, there is like a ton of concentration in the Sol token in these big investors that we found. So that's something we're dealing with, and that's partially why we're working on the V2 that we are with Marinade, that is actually going to have a product for those types of investors who can invest not in liquid staking, but they can basically move stake around, without the taxable event and just use native staking.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I want to go back to what you said earlier, because that's all a great point. But you said that you wouldn't boast about having the highest TVL and having the TVL that you guys have just because it is a drop in the bucket comparative to all Sol that is circulating. Would you say that's not boasting about that and not being very, for lack of a better word, having pride about it, because could become from just the ambition that you guys have? Like, obviously with how Solana is majority, a lot of the volume comes from NFTs, right? And not very few people actually deep dive into DeFi or even really know what DeFi is on Solana, obviously. With that, obviously with what you just talked about how these massive whales and how a lot of Sol is locked up, and you guys are positioning to that way. Is it, I guess all that to say, is it really fair to criticize yourself, or not criticize, but have this criticism for yourself? You guys do not have as much, considering the state that Solana is at right now, especially within DeFi.
I don't know if we're being hard on ourselves. I just think that we're working with an addressable market, and then a market that's not quite addressable yet. It's just a challenge to get the early money to move it. But that's just why we keep building new things. I mean, if every quarter we're launching new stuff, and so we're just going to build our way out of it. We're going to keep building things until there's really no reason to not use us. And what we try and remind people of, another one of the kind of things about Solana that's kind of stuck with the chain a little too long is this idea of being this VC chain. And you had, especially in 2021, all these token launches via FTX and whatnot. With the early insiders kind of dumping on people. So something that maybe we don't promote enough, and maybe need to more, is that Marinade is a grant funded community project, and really our main goal is to get the MNDE governance token in the hands of the ecosystem builders, and so that they can eventually control the DAO together. And I think one of the kind of fascinating things to me, just coming from, like a more of like a traditional Web 2 role, is like the goal of Marinade is for there to be like no core team eventually. So like they want to decentralize Solana with the MSOL token, but like eventually we're setting up the governance so that it's all just governed by the MNDE token. There's really doesn't need to be a contributing team. The founders are, totally dispersed and diluted. So it's kind of a fascinating concept. And so we want to keep reminding people, like, we've still got about 80% of the MNDE token that hasn't been distributed yet. And we've really changed the delegation and distribution of this token to really award it to people who build on Solana right now. So there's a lot less liquidity mining than there used to be in 2021. So, in 2021, you had, DeFi going nuts and a lot of emissions. You could kind of farm tokens like crazy. We're really not doing a whole lot of that now. There's only maybe 50,000 MNDE tokens that are mined a week, really everywhere. And instead, we're giving that to people who like build TVL. So it's a lot harder to you can't really farm MNDE like you used to. I mean, you can make like 1% in a couple places, but the idea is like you come to us with grants, grant proposals, and we give you MNDE for that, or you grow MSOL on your protocol and we give you MNDE for that. And so eventually that turns into the whole community owning Marinade, as opposed to kind of the VC narrative that, fairly unfairly kind of dominated Solana in the early years.
And what's your take on like the 40 million SOL that are still locked up with like FTX? Is that gonna hurt in the middle of the bull market, or do we have enough liquidity to absorb that?
They got what, like 8 or 9%?
40 million SOL, yeah, like a lot.
Yeah, it's an overhang for sure. It's I mean, I think Ethereum dealt with similar things in their tokenomics early on. They had a fork. There's been some kind of non-serious discussion about a Solana fork that maybe got more coverage than it deserved, because the people who were throwing that out there, they weren't validators or serious kind of technological people who really understand what that means. So, I think it's one of these things where it's just going to have to work itself out over a couple of years. Maybe it's a short-term detriment. It's hard to say. It's hard to predict the future and what the next cycles are going to look like. But
no kidding.
Yeah, I would love to just get that flushed out now.
Yeah,
I think some of it's not till 2025 or so.
Yeah, easily. Like if there is like trial and stuff, like that money is not going anywhere anytime soon-ish. We will see if that's gonna like slow down the bull run of Solana. But yeah,
there are a lot of things that can happen with the SOL tokenomics. The emissions can change. SOL tokens do get burned via transaction fees. So the emission schedule will change. And I know that Ethereum kind of boasts this deflationary model now. I don't see deflationary happening on Solana for a while, but the emission schedule is going to decline, just kind of based on numerous factors. So I think the tokenomics are early, and I think they can improve, and I think we're all excited for that overhang to be flushed. So
what do you think about people who are trying to bid on it, like SBB coming out asking like the bid on that type of liquidation?
It's great there's bidder. I'm glad people see value in the token. I think everyone's curious, what L1s are going to drive value to the token as opposed to the ecosystem. It's great people see value in the L1 token. That's awesome. I mean, I never really liked the unfairness of people being able to go through courts or things like that to get tokens, but it is what it is. And big companies have access to that type of stuff.
The next few years will be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Stake your SOL, grow your
exactly.
grow your SOL stack now. I don't know how long we're going to see $16, $17 SOL.
Yeah. So as you're touching on that, how like the big focus is to get these big whales into Marinade and have them deposit their SOL. And you said that's kind of a one of the core visions of Marinade V2. Can you dive a little bit into that?
Yeah, so really V2 is it's taking aim at the market that we haven't really been able to get. And just we talk to whales all the time in the foundation and protocols. We're very close with a lot of people, and just some people don't want to deal with the smart contract risk of uh,
Yeah.
of liquid staking, or they want to keep the stake where it is, all that. But we want to have an alternative to the native staking that currently exists. Last year, I think around the time Luna crashed, so it didn't get a whole lot of promotion. But we built something with grants called the decentralizer, and really what this was a non-smart contract way to use the Marinade delegation strategy. So you could kind of smart stake natively through Marinade using the decentralizer, and we're going to take that product and make it more kind of retail driven. So it's really going to enable you to use the delegation strategy in native stake, as opposed to staking with one validator and then you're susceptible to their performance. So to give you all a little background on staking, you know, it's not custodial that the validator can't like take your coins or anything, but what can happen is they can commission rug you. So you can sign up for a validator who's offering a 5% commission, and then like right before the epoch ends, they can just switch it to 100% and just take all your rewards. And we saw a lot of that happen in November around the time of FTX, because just the economics for validators changed so much that some people just started getting real shady. So what Marinade has built all these tools, and what we can do is if you stake through us to a validator, we're going to be able to monitor that stake for you, and if it gets shady, we can like move it for you automatically. And it's lossless stake, like we don't have to unstake it, we can like restake it for you. And so that's really the main idea. But then there's also things like a staking rewards insurance where we're going to like more or less guarantee your staking rewards with us so that you can't kind of get commission rugged. And then we also have an instant liquidity router. This is another thing where you can instantly unstake and redelegate your staked position using not just the Marinade liquidity pool, but any. So these are all ways of just making stake more and more liquid. I think one other thing that makes liquid staking only 2% of all stake on Solana is that the epochs are only 2 to 3 days. And for a lot of people, like if I unstake my native stake and I only wait a day or two to get it back, like most people are totally fine with that. So, I think we understand that. And so we want to be able to have both ways, the liquid stake that always has access, and then also you can access native stake and get out really instantly using the liquidity pools. So really the V2 in a nutshell is we want Marinade to be like your home for staking. Now I'm not gonna say never, but we don't have a validator, so you're still staking through validators. But we're like the home, like the stake manager type home for you. Really, it's like the smartest way to stake possible, and you can really do it however you want.
And the epoch between the time frame between two epoch can change, right, based on the network activity, right? It's always 2 to 3 days, right? Because it's the number of transactions.
Yeah, but there has been discussion. I don't know how serious it's getting, but there has been discussion about making the epochs longer and making the unbonding periods longer to support liquid staking. That's something that would be a decision with the validators and the foundation. It's like there has been discussion, like other networks have longer unbonding periods, and so they might do that just to make people liquid stake more. But that's all speculation. There's also the idea of slashing, which Ethereum has. Solana doesn't have it yet, but if slashing were to come to Solana, it would make the stake manager at Marinade a lot more, a much better opportunity, because we're able to keep an eye on validators, way better than the average person probably wants to. I don't think most retail people want to like watch their validator.
Okay.
I think could you explain real quick what slashing is for people?
Slashing would basically, if you stake SOL with a validator and that validator, tries to, process fraudulent transactions or kind of does any kind of nefarious behavior, you won't just not get staking rewards. Like they'll take your SOL too. So like they'll take a percentage of the Sol tokens, and like they're burned or removed or something. So like that's like a big deal if you're going to stake with a validator and then they act nefariously and then get your stake slashed. It's gone. You don't just just lose rewards. Like you're going to actually have less Sol. So that's a discussion that's going on.
Slashing, like there is no slashing on Solana right now.
Not yet. No.
Okay.
It's
yeah. Okay, I saw it was like that's why I wanted like to even like split some store into different validators. But okay, I saw slashing. It's not in the doc. Like there's nothing.
It's a little confusing. Like it's in the docs as like a proposal. Right? It's like proposed, but it's not live.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
it's funny. I've actually noticed that there are parts of the docs that make it seem like it's part of the
like I read like a paragraph about. I'm pretty sure it's like there is a paragraph about slashing, and I was aware of like the ETH flashing, so I didn't read that paragraph. I should have done it maybe. I was
it's fine. You're not the first. Yeah, I mean I've had people come to me assuming that slashing was implemented. Now it's not.
Okay.
So transitioning, we're talking a lot about staking in these validators, but very recently, something that's got a lot of attention is Drift came out with this super stake Sol that they're. I don't know if there's an ETA when they want to launch that, but how does Marinade view that? Is that more of a cooperative looking deal, or would they competition, or how does Marinade look at that?
No, we want people to build on MSOL like crazy, like any use case that you can think of. Marinade has the MSOL SDK, anyone can build on it, and we've been in touch.
Would be implemented that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so really at first it's just MSOL on Superstake because MSOL just has superior market liquidity. And let's kind of back it up and I'll explain what it is. Really, it's a way to leverage your stake. So what was happening really ever since Marinade came out almost 2 years ago, you would stake your Sol, get MSOL, go to a collateral platform like Solend. So you would supply your MSOL, borrow Sol, take that Sol, go get MSOL with it, supply it back to Solend, borrow more Sol. And so you kind of get this like leverage loop going. So it's a little risky in a sense that if LTVs or oracles kind of act up, you could lose some of your some of what you've supplied. But really what the Drift Superstake Sol is, it's just like a UI that makes like automatic, so you don't have to like keep borrowing and like making a bunch of transactions. It's really a vault that you do via Drift, and there's like a slide bar that you can kind of pick your leverage to do it. So it's a way of really leveraging your staking. Now, Marinade, we like to kind of be like safe and conservative and all that, but we also understand that we've all got a little degen inside us. So yeah, it's imminent. It's we were talking to them today about it. They just want to make sure that it's all buttoned up and good to go. So they're testing it like crazy, and we hope to go live soon with it. But we're going to support it, and we're actually going to put a little MNDE liquidity behind it. So the first people who use it will have a chance to earn some kind of liquidity mining off it as a marketing expense. So keep an eye out for it. Don't like degen your whole stack into it. If any, I mean, it's totally fine to just get MSOL and just park it and don't touch it. But if you're interested in degenning your stake a little bit, like that's one way of doing it, or you can do it manually through Solend still. Kind of pick your LTVs that you want to do. But that's an exciting thing that they're building. We've had people trying to build this for a while, and like one thing or another comes up, or like their priorities change, and so we're excited to see this one. And I even saw Toli was like retweeting it, so Toli's a degen too. So
yeah, he did some eyes emojis on that. That's
awesome. Yeah, thanks for your support, Toli. We'll be looking out for your super stake Sol.
Let's go. And what are the risks associated with like MSOL staking? Like, what could happen to my stake?
Well, through super stake Sol, you do just want to worry about like the oracles. So during FTX, in November, the liquid staking tokens all did market depeg a little bit. So like if it were to depeg like a bunch, and you guys saw this with like STETH a little bit too, like before they even had all that. So like there is some market depeg risk, and if the oracles were to pick up on a big enough depeg, it could liquidate your lend borrow positions LTV, so you could lose some there. Now the risk for like just MSOL, it is on an open source smart contract. It's been out for 2 years. It's been audited and all that, but smart contract risk is smart contract risk. So you've got to be mindful of that. It's been fine so far, and we're just kind of hoping the Lindy effects and all that is in place for the next couple of years, and people just get more comfortable with it. I will mention that something that also happened during the FTX crash, like with Serum, for example, people didn't know who had the Serum keys. Remember that? So like, it like people are like, wait, who's got the Serum keys? And no one did. And so they forked it into open book and put it on a multi-sig. So like Marinade is on a community multi-sig. So it's a 13-party multi-sig, and actually more parties are community members like on other protocols than the Marinade team itself. And so we want people to know that it's on a multi-sig. We know where the keys are, and we're building more DAO governance tooling on Realms to make all this as transparent as we can. Because I think we all kind of learned that some things might have been built so quickly in the bull run that people didn't know who had the keys to certain things. So
that was when all that FTX stuff was happening, and everybody was like not even trusting Serum because like, well, FTX, like back to all Solana DeFi is going to zero because FTX is what held it alive. And all that speculation there.
I was a breakpoint too. I don't know if you guys were a breakpoint, but the breakpoint started out so great in November and it ended so terribly. It's such a surreal time in crypto and Solana especially, but I'm excited to go back this year. It can't possibly happen again, right?
I mean, not with the FTX at least. But yeah, like we're gonna Hash, are you going to Breakpoint?
I'm not. So that would be in the middle of where I am the absolute busiest. We were just talking about this before the call. I'm pretty sure Brandon would understand how I'd be very busy in that time of the year. But yeah, unfortunately not. Which that's what really sucks. Is I wanted to go to Solana Hacker House in Austin, but I was not be able to attend it this past year like I did the year before.
So Brandon, I will meet you there alone. I mean, like with other people, but like
love it.
Love it. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Can do an event with like all of the people who jump on like the channel and stuff. That's gonna be cool.
Let's do it live. Yeah, do it on the showroom floor.
Yeah. Exactly. Cool.
All right, Brandon. So here I'm going into the things that I'm sure you hear all the time. All right, and it's very highly requested. So I'm sure you know where I'm going, but MSOL integration with things like obviously the most volume right now with Sharky, a Tensor, and a Magic Eden. I know I'm pretty sure the first time we ever spoke on like the I think it was a show literally a year ago when it was just for Divine Dogs. We touched on this a little bit. And I know obviously this is something that always being discussed within your community and always being talked about, being worked upon. But I have to bring something like this up.
Yeah. So I will say there has been progress in getting MSOL integrated in the NFT culture. And I want to say that like the NFT community has like carried Solana over the last year while, DeFi, we kind of trip over ourselves and on the struggle bus for many different ways. But the NFTs carried us. I love the energy there. I don't think anybody really expected the NFT community to take off as quickly as it did. I know that some of the chain stoppages and congestion, I think Tolly was like, we weren't expecting all this activity on mints this early. I see I'm still on Sharkify. Yeah. So I was actually on a Spaces last week with Sharkify. So you can do lend borrow on RainFi and get MSOL. So shout out to RainFi for doing that. Sharky, yeah, I'd love to get them too. I'll also mention that Liquify NFT integrated SPL tokens on their platform as well. And by all accounts, it's actually quite easy to integrate SPL tokens into any of these marketplaces. It's just a matter of if these marketplaces and platforms want to make their UX more confusing. And I think that seems to be some of the feedback that we get is that number one, it's like they're going multi-chain or they're building these really important things and they can't get to it on the roadmap, or they're nervous about the UX complexity of adding different tokens with different prices. The one interesting thing I'll mention is this idea of like the NFT AMMs, and this is something that Gaius hits on a lot. I don't know if you guys know Gaius, but he's on our growth team now, and big into NFTs. He does a lot of the AMM supplying, like on Tensor and elsewhere. I think Frac too. But when you supply to these marketplaces, you're supplying NFTs and Sol. He wants to see these AMM supplied MSOL NFT. So then you're getting not just liquidity pool fees, but you're also getting the staking rewards. And so that's an interesting thing. And we've gotten curiosity there from platforms. We need community help because we're blowing up their DMs. Trust me. We're trying to be like courteous, but also annoying.
Yeah.
So yeah, like apologies
No
to Tensor and all of them for, sometimes we poke the bear a little bit, but we're doing what we got to do.
Yeah, well, what's super interesting is that you would, because in these AMMs, like on Tensor, you don't even have to supply an NFT if you want to. You can supply liquidity to these pools with just liquidity. So imagine supplying MSOL to your favorite collection as liquidity. So you earn the staking rewards on Tensor, while you can also earn the trading fees if it goes into your, obviously your margin of that trading back and forth, providing liquidity there, because you'll obviously get your NFT to provide liquidity with if it breaks down into your margin. So I thought that would be really cool, and I think that's like super seamless and cool way to get MSOL into it. But I obviously I see you guys are working on it. But the reason why I asked about Sharky was because I saw Nepa, who's a core team member, like because someone replied underneath one of your guys' tweets about having Sharky, which I thought it was like multiple MSOL on Sharky, and Nepa's a core team member, and she replied to that. So that's what got me excited and wanted to talk about.
Okay, nice. Yeah, we'll circle back. I mean, love it. Yeah, I think every team is like so heads down. Sometimes we're probably buried on 10 different roadmaps. But it's great when we see like Tolly, promoting liquid staking tokens and the community members. Like I got to shout out Durden at Lifinity. I don't know if you guys know Lifinity, but
Durden,
yeah. But like he's always talking about this, and God bless him for that.
That's cool.
I'm always really excited about you guys, and I'm always kind of pushing like any kind of platforms that we talk about when we're like, how can we get DeFi more integrated into NFT things? Like you have to talk about MSOL because of everything it can be seamlessly implemented into. But especially as I've been kind of diving more and more into those NFT AMMs, like Gaius has been. I just thought about that possibility of MSOL on there, having your double rewards there.
Yeah, big time. It's just so passive too. It's just such passive yield for staking rewards and it's pretty risk free. I mean, everything in DeFi has risk, but it's pretty unsexy. Staking rewards that's pretty reliable. And so if my hope is, sometimes you just kind of need that one platform to go for it, and everyone realizes they were stupid for never doing it. And then everyone jumps in. So, kind of slowly then all at once maybe is what'll happen. But there's fractioned, liquidity with all these staking tokens, and they all have different prices based on when they launched. So just I get the reason why we get pushback, and we've gotten this from Phantom too. We're always like blowing up Phantom. they don't. It's hard to explain liquid staking to people, and I'm constantly explaining to people how MSOL works and how like the price goes up versus SOL after each epoch, and people think, oh, am I getting less SOL because I just swapped one SOL for 0.92 MSOL? What's going on here? Is that like your fee? We're like, no, it's not our fee. Like that's just like when you bring it back, you'll get more.
Yeah.
But it's maybe not the, if I was like designing it 4 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever the liquid staking contracts were being built, maybe I would have raised my hand about that dynamic. I don't know if I could have given anything better. I'm kind of one of those product guys who just complains. But yeah, I don't know. It's a hard thing to understand and get your heads around unless you're really kind of into the space and get it. So I sympathize with all the platforms who have not wanted to do that because they're fighting their own battles.
And
the one thing that I don't understand, and I think Camino did it very well, and the reason why I think that more products should implement it is because like Camino has obviously their yield platform, right? And they add the staking yield that MSOL provides to all their pools that are provided. It makes their yield look better. I don't understand how other products that offer, even if it's not even yield, right, can show you that, okay, you're earning more, you're earning that 6% more than you would if you did not have it. So like, for example, if Camino didn't have your added bonus of the MSOL stake rewards, their pool would be 6% less. But with that, they can add 6.5% or whatever the epoch yield is there. So what I don't understand is how products can use these different things or use the MSOL's staking reward to add on yield to make it with this DGen culture in Solana, right? To add on these different, have it a more incentive for their products. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I guess the only thing you're dealing with is maybe the volumes of SOL are higher than MSOL. But I will say that if you were going to supply SOL to Hubble or some of these collaterals, like the great thing about MSOL as collateral is that while you've supplied it as collateral, it's growing. So that's just kind of awesome. And so that's what I would recommend to people. Like, unless the APY on the SOL lending is like way better, it makes a lot more sense to just move it to MSOL first and then park it in Hubble or Solend or a lot of these others. It's just passive and easy.
And that's what I'm not even thinking like strictly liquidity volume based platforms as well. I can envision something like on Tensor, you can provide liquidity with your Solana, right? But here's a little button that says, but if you do it with MSOL, you also have plus 6% with your yield.
Yeah.
So that's just how I kind of see from product vision.
Let's call Tensor right now. Let's call them. Hey, who's got their number? Let's DM. Let's blow up their DMs like all of us right now.
Let's go. We can make a thread about that. That would be cool.
I mean, it's a great point though. Like if Tensor and Magic Eden start fighting and their yields on AMMs or whatnot are tight, I mean, I think what kind of bugged me a little bit, and this is me speaking as a guy and not like Marinade rep, like seeing some of these protocols go multi-chain as opposed to building on Solana and building on Solana specific stuff. That was a little hard to see, especially when we were kind of struggling big time as an ecosystem. Kind of seeing people having one foot out the door going multi-chain. Like I get it, but at the same time, I was definitely happier with projects that kept working with the Solana ecosystem, because the NFT, there's been so much cool stuff happening in NFTs, and I think because of what Solana is, it's just a better place to be an NFT community member and trader than paying $100 in gas to do like the littlest things. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, the NFTs are like built for Solana, really.
Extremely well said. We couldn't say it better myself. I just know that. I'm sorry, Vince. Go ahead. I just know that
go for it.
has the hard stop. So I wanted to kind of get to our global questions that we have. Go ahead.
Like when you mention like NFT like, do you see like platform who lend and offer like lending and borrowing on an NFT as like a alternative / competition to like liquid staking in a way? Because like the performance of like way higher than what you can offer on liquid staking, or is that two different paradigm of like optimizing your performances?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, MSOL probably competes with Solana yield wherever that might be. So yeah, it's you know, if I'm getting 6 or 7% with MSOL versus I can supply it for 14% with Sol, yeah, that's absolutely something we need to think about. And that's when we're just like, okay, well, I mean, imagine how good that would be if it was MSOL and not Sol yield at this platform. And it's like this circle of like debate that we end up coming around to the same thing. We'll just use MSOL. Okay, we could try this. We'll just use MSOL. So, that's kind of the battles we fight. But that's again, like, we're only 2% of the stake. So it's like, if we were, it's almost like a chicken and egg thing. It's like, okay, we need to be more integrated.
Yes.
To raise that, but at the same time, people don't want to integrate us because we're too low.
We need to buy NFTs with MSOL.
You cannot liquefy NFT. Shout out to them. I know it's not like the biggest platform, but they integrated multiple SPL tokens, so they've demonstrated the roadmap of how to do it. It's just not like a sophisticated platform like Tensor is.
Ash, it sounds like we got to be louder about it. This is what what I'm hearing.
Ash, quick reminder: we have 4 minutes.
That's obviously outside of Marinade. The community has to rally around it, and I know there is a lot of voices out there, but it's obviously not always the loudest that are.
Yeah, and maybe we're too humble too. Like, I feel like our founding team at Marinade is like, we don't like to beat our chests. I mean, I think there are some founders who are just like very loud and very public, and that's not us.
Maybe too loud.
So yeah, maybe we need to like kind of drink the Kool-Aid a little bit and get buck wild and get some of that mad lads in our blood.
Yeah, that seems like very receptive on Solana. Very receptive being that way. That's
I'm gonna start taking my shirt off, running around in Speedo, start bungee jumping. I was just watching something before this call Mad Lads is doing. I didn't really understand. Like, I'm only like, we clearly don't take enough risks at Marinade when I see Mad Lads doing what they're doing. Like,
I mean, that's another form of content in Web3 that we have. It's a vertical.
Yeah, like we were talking in the beginning, that video content, even though it's different between video and tweet. If a tweet you don't understand it, there's no way it gets engagement. But it could be the wildest video that no one understands, but it'll get tons of engagement because of how it is delivered.
Yeah, I mean, Mad Lads is crushing it. With the content. I still don't fully understand what NX NFTs are, but I know that I'm supposed to be very impressed. I'm still trying to like understand like an app within an NFT, and it's like yours. I think the devs. This is when my my liberal arts major kind of fails me, and I don't understand these concepts. But I'm learning still. But I do understand that Armani is like kind of legendary as a builder, and they're clearly kind of setting the bar for hype too. So it's awesome to watch.
Yeah, it all comes full circle of education. We all need education in different things.
And also, I mean, we're talking video content. I think what I'm constantly reminded by is how global Web3 is, and I'm always reminded by how many people don't know English, have broken English. The visual content is massive to them. Like, it's so much better for them than me to like write out long form how something works. Like, if we can make really succinct educational content that any like Nigeria understands it, anywhere understands it, then like that's the gold standard, and it's something that I always feel like I can improve on, and really the whole ecosystem can.
Yeah, we need to make an updated version of our last year's Marinade X Divine Dog video.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. I made like a mashup of like all the ways Marinade got used last year. It was so cool to see, and I kind of came from a background of kind of Web2, kind of institutional media, and like Web3 just kind of scratches me where I itch. I love the creativity. There's like no rules, you know. There's
Trying
no,
to figure it out.
you know, yeah, I love it.
Ash, I think we need to wrap it up in the next couple of seconds.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah,
All
no,
good.
for sure. I wanted to this kind of hit on this last thing of, we ask all projects but obviously what is like a couple key points that you want the audience to come away with about Marinade Finance?
We're community driven, and like there's room for you. And if you want to build, whether it's content, development, I mean, that like we want people to understand that like we're not like VCs who are like overseeing, like we're not like overlords by any means. Like don't let the big TVL make you think that we're this gigantic project. We're community built. I think we got 80 grand to start. So yeah, we're just a bunch of people building something, and there's a ton of opportunity here for you. And I think it's a humble place. It's a very, very kind place. I feel home here, and really people from all over do as well. So, and yeah, it's just, and just from like a holder's perspective, don't get diluted on your SOL tokens. Stake it so you can keep up at least, and then you're also helping the network out. Whether it's with MSOL or others or native stake. I mean, I think we just want decentralization and censorship resistance and performance. So keep that in mind. If you want to be a SOL holder, participate, be active. There's safe ways to do it, and it's an awesome place to be. Going on 2 years here, and it's we're still here. We've seen it all.
Let's be here in 20 years too.
Yeah, nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah.
And the very last thing we ask everybody who comes on is what are you most excited about Solana DeFi? Obviously outside of Marinade, what's the most thing that excites you the most?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of I will say the one issue that we had with FTX was the wrapped assets on Solid. FTX was basically backing like wrapped Bitcoin and ETH with essentially nothing. So the wrapped assets coming back are going to be big. We're seeing like people are trying to build like GMX for Solana type stuff. I'm really just excited for all these like kind of V2s of DeFi. There's going to be all these new tokens. I think we're close. I see a lot of rumbling under the surface, and even just seeing today what Cypher's got going on. The technology is there. People are kind of coming back to it. They wanted to see where the dust settled, but what you're seeing is with this void left by FTX, I think people do think they can take ownership and control of the chain with new protocols and kind of kick some of the old stuff that was maybe a little poisoned, that can be put to the wayside, and really the people's chain can take over. So long-winded answer, but that's what I'll leave you with.
Awesome.
That's great, man.
Well, Brandon, I appreciate you so much coming on today. This was a bunch of
man.
fun. This was a bunch of fun.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks for sharing your time with me. I'm glad to come to you from the cabin. And I see these DeGods. I never got a DeGod. I don't know. Is it still a goodbye? Should I be going over to?
It's still free, bro. It's still free.
Okay.
I'm a little bit more on the Solana Maxi side. I know you're not Max like you said, but it kind of broke my heart when that day happened. But that's neither here or there. But that's my stance on it.
I'm not touching NFTs at all. Like I'm good with my DeGods bags, but like I'm not paying $200 to mint something maybe, or like nah, it's not happening.
My daughter and I got a Klano, so that's our good one.
Good.
Let's go.
If your kids tell you an NFT looks cool, I've found that it's a good buy, because they're not jaded yet by all the like the market forces and the max bidding and the hype. Like if your daughter thinks it's a good NFT, they're onto something. Go with your gut.
100%. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for all the work you guys are doing too.
thank you so much. Enjoy your time with your family in the cabin. And yeah, Ash, good job again. One more stream that you master, and it was cool. So yeah, everyone, thank you so much for jumping on the Twitter space and yeah, the YouTube chat. I hope you liked it. And yeah, we will see you next week for the next DeFi Decoded. And also, like, I have a stream in like 2 hours about the mid jump. We're gonna jump some like do some Migo stuff on it. That's gonna be cool. So be there. Don't forget to claim your views because yeah, that's what you want to do. Brandon, you probably have views in your wallet now because some people like from the Decoders community tip you in views. That's cool. Thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you in the next 2 hours. Bye-bye.
You guys.